The hardest thing you will ever do in your manifestation practice is nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I don't mean that as a platitude. I mean that the act of stopping, of ceasing the mental pushing, the anxious checking, the desperate monitoring of whether it's working yet, is the single most difficult skill a human being can develop, and it is, without question, the skill that Neville Goddard identified as the missing piece in virtually every failed manifestation. You've done the visualization. You've felt the wish fulfilled. You've lived in the end. You've done everything the teachings say to do. And then, in the hours, the days, the weeks that follow, you've undone all of it. Not by doing something wrong, by refusing to do nothing, by picking up the seed you just planted and inspecting it every 15 minutes to see if it's growing yet. And every time you pick it up, you reset the process to zero. Every single time. That's not a metaphor. That is the mechanical reality of how consciousness interacts with manifestation. And it's the reason most people who understand Neville's work intellectually never experience its results practically. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the 4 stages of what Neville called the Sabbath, the state of complete rest after the creative act is finished. 4 stages that move you from anxious wanting to the deep, embodied relaxation that allows the universe to deliver what you've already claimed. But I need to warn you about stage 3. Stage 3 is where the universe tests whether you actually believe what you've been telling it. It's where circumstances will appear to move in the opposite direction of your desire. And your response in that stage determines whether the manifestation completes or collapses. Let's start with the one you're violating right now without realizing it. The first stage is the one that explains why your manifestations feel like they're stuck in amber. Why you've done the inner work. You've felt the reality. You've assumed the state. And yet the physical world seems to be ignoring you completely, as if the universe took your order and then lost it. It didn't lose it. You keep canceling it. Stage 1. Understand that the creative act is already complete. Not will be complete when it manifests. Not is in progress. Complete. Finished. Done. The moment you inhabited the wish fulfilled. The moment you felt the reality of having what you desire with enough clarity and emotional conviction that your nervous system registered it as real, the creative act ended. Neville was explicit about this. He didn't say, imagine your desire and then keep imagining it until it appears. He said, imagine it, feel it as real, and then rest, because the work is done. Think about what happens when you plant a seed in soil. You prepare the ground, you place the seed, you cover it, and then what? You walk away. You don't stand over the soil with a flashlight interrogating the dirt. You don't dig the seed up every morning to check on it. You don't hover anxiously, whispering, grow, grow, grow at the ground. You planted it. The conditions are set. The intelligence within the seed knows exactly what to do. Your job is finished. But that's not what you do with your manifestations. You plant the seed, you do the imaginative work, and then you immediately start digging. You check for evidence. You look for signs. You scan your circumstances for any indication that it's working. Has anything changed yet? Is it coming? When will it show? Maybe I didn't do it right. Maybe I should imagine again tonight. Maybe I need to feel it more. Every one of those thoughts is a shovel, and every time you pick it up, you unearth the seed, expose it to conditions it wasn't designed to handle, and reset its growth to zero. Neville called this sleeping in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. And the word sleep is doing more work in that phrase than most people realize. Sleep is not effort. Sleep is not monitoring. Sleep is not anxious vigilance. Sleep is the complete cessation of conscious interference. It is the total surrender of the waking mind's need to control, manage, and verify. When you fall asleep at night, you don't lie in bed trying to make sleep happen. The trying is what prevents it. Sleep comes when you stop efforting, when you release, when you let go of the very thing you're trying to grasp, and manifestation operates on exactly the same mechanics. Here's what's actually happening when you plant the seed through imagination. Your consciousness, operating from a specific state, broadcasting a specific frequency, has impressed a pattern onto what Neville called the subconscious mind, or deeper, the creative medium of reality itself. That impression is real. It has been received. The creative intelligence that governs the unfolding of events has accepted your instruction and begun organizing the bridge of incidents, the chain of events, circumstances, and coincidences that will lead to the physical manifestation of what you imagined. That organization is happening right now, even if you can't see it, even if your current circumstances show zero evidence, even if things appear to be getting worse. The creative act was completed the moment you felt the reality of the wish fulfilled. Everything after that is not your department, and this is where it gets uncomfortable. Because not your department means exactly that. You don't get to manage the how. You don't get to choose the when. You don't get to orchestrate the through whom or the by what means. Those details belong to an intelligence so vast, so precise, so capable of coordinating millions of moving pieces simultaneously that your conscious mind's attempt to manage it is not just unnecessary, it's actively destructive. Neville used the phrase, ways you know not of, repeatedly. The bridge of incidents leading to your manifestation will almost certainly not look like anything you would have planned. The conscious mind, with its limited perspective and its addiction to linear logic, would design a straight line between where you are and where you want to be. The creative intelligence designs something far more elegant, but it looks, from the conscious mind's perspective, like chaos, like randomness, like nothing is happening. Stage 1 is deceptively simple and maddeningly difficult. After you've done your imaginative work, after you felt the wish fulfilled with genuine conviction, you stop. You don't revisit the scene to strengthen it. You don't check for evidence. You don't discuss it with anyone. You don't journal about whether it's working. You enter the Sabbath, the rest, the done. If you catch yourself mentally checking on the manifestation, you redirect. Not with force, with the same energy you'd use to stop yourself from picking up a package you've already mailed. It's been sent. Picking it up doesn't make it arrive faster. It makes it arrive never. One question to anchor. Stage 1. Would the person who already has this be checking for signs that it's coming? No, they wouldn't. Because it's already theirs. Live from that. That's not a technique. That's the entire foundation, and without it, the remaining 3 stages cannot function. Now that you understand the creative act is complete, you need to understand what's happening beneath your awareness that keeps pulling you out of the Sabbath. Because knowing you should relax and actually relaxing are 2 entirely different neurological events, and the gap between them is where most manifestations die. Stage 2. Identify and dissolve the addiction to control that masquerades as diligence. Here's what nobody tells you about the anxiety that follows a manifestation attempt. It's not about the manifestation. It's about your nervous system's relationship with uncertainty. And that relationship was formed long before you ever heard of Neville Goddard. Your nervous system was built for survival. Its primary function is scanning for threats and maintaining predictability. When something is uncertain, when an outcome is not yet confirmed, when you don't know what will happen or when or how, your nervous system categorizes that uncertainty as danger. Not mild discomfort, danger. The same category as physical threat. And it responds accordingly. It floods your body with cortisol and adrenaline. It tightens your muscles. It narrows your focus. It activates the monitoring system, the part of your brain that scans the environment obsessively for any information that will resolve the uncertainty and return you to a feeling of control. That monitoring system is what you experience as checking for signs. That anxiety you feel when you've set an intention and nothing has shown up yet, that's not spiritual doubt. That's your amygdala firing because it has categorized your unmanifested desire as an unresolved threat. And it will keep firing, keep pushing you to check, to worry, to plan, to control, until the uncertainty is resolved. This is the mechanism that undoes manifestation. Not lack of faith, not insufficient visualization, a nervous system that equates uncertainty with danger and demands resolution through control. Neville understood this implicitly, even without the neuroscience vocabulary. He called it living by appearances, reacting to what the senses report rather than dwelling in the reality of the wish fulfilled. And he identified it as the single most common reason people fail to manifest. Not because they can't imagine vividly enough, but because they can't tolerate the gap between imagination and physical evidence long enough for the bridge of incidents to complete. The gap is the test, and your nervous system is designed to fail it. So how do you pass? Not by overriding the nervous system with willpower. That's a losing battle. The nervous system is older, faster, and more powerful than your conscious mind. You don't fight it, you regulate it. Here's the practice. When you feel the anxiety rising, when you notice yourself wanting to check, to plan, to do something about your manifestation, stop. Don't engage the thought. Don't argue with it. Don't tell yourself, I need to have faith, or I shouldn't be worrying. Those are cognitive responses to a somatic event, and they don't work. Instead, drop into the body. Place your hand on your chest. Slow your breathing to 5 or 6 cycles per minute. And as you breathe, internally speak one sentence. It is done. Not as an affirmation, as a fact. The way you'd say, the sun is shining, when you can see it through the window. Not hoping. Stating. Feel what those 3 words do to your body when you actually let them land. It is done. The shoulders drop. The jaw unclenches. The stomach softens. The monitoring system, receiving the signal that the threat has been resolved, that the outcome is settled, begins to power down. You're not tricking your nervous system. You're informing it. You're telling it, through the combined signal of breath regulation, body contact, and stated certainty, that the uncertainty has been resolved, that the outcome is secure, that there is nothing left to monitor. And here's the profound thing. You're telling it the truth. Because the creative act is done. The seed is planted. The instruction has been received. The bridge of incidents is being assembled. The only thing generating the uncertainty signal was the nervous system's inability to distinguish between hasn't happened yet in the physical world and isn't going to happen. Those are not the same thing. Hasn't happened yet is a temporal fact. Isn't going to happen is a prediction. And your nervous system has been treating the first as evidence of the second. Stage 2 is training your body to tolerate the gap, to sit in the space between the creative act and the physical result without interpreting that space as evidence of failure, to regulate your system into the Sabbath state, the deep biological rest that allows the creative intelligence to work without your interference. Every time you successfully regulate through the anxiety instead of acting on it, every time you breathe through the urge to check and return to "it is done," you strengthen the neural pathway that allows manifestation to complete. You're building the tolerance for divine timing that Neville said was the mark of a mature practitioner. And now we arrive at the one I warned you about at the beginning. This is the stage where reality appears to betray you, where the physical world not only fails to confirm your manifestation but seems to actively contradict it, where things get worse, where the opposite of what you imagined starts showing up with alarming specificity. Stage 3. The reversal is not a denial. It is the bridge under construction. This is where people break. This is where everything they've built in stages 1 and 2 collapses, because the evidence their senses are receiving is so loud, so vivid, so undeniably real, that maintaining the inner reality of the wish fulfilled feels like clinical delusion. Let me describe what this looks like. You've been living in the end. You've been feeling abundant. You've been dwelling in the state of someone who has financial freedom. And then, 3 days, a week, 2 weeks in, an unexpected bill arrives. A client cancels. An expense you didn't see coming drains your account. The physical world is shouting with perfect clarity, "You are not abundant. Look at this. Look. This is your real reality." Or you've been dwelling in the wish fulfilled of a loving relationship, feeling it, living from it, and then the person you're interested in pulls away, goes silent, starts showing interest in someone else. The outer world screams, "This is not working. You were foolish to believe." Neville addressed this directly. He said, and these are close to his exact words, that circumstances, the facts of life, will often seem to deny the reality of your assumption, and the temptation to give in to the evidence of the senses is enormous. But the one who persists in the assumption, who refuses to accept the evidence of the senses as final, is the one for whom reality reorganizes. Here's what's actually happening during the reversal. And this is mechanical, not mystical. When you impress a new pattern onto the creative medium through the wish fulfilled, you are not adding something to your current reality. You are replacing something. The new pattern and the old pattern cannot coexist. One must dissolve for the other to take form. And dissolution looks like destruction. Think of it this way. If you're renovating a house, there is a phase of the renovation where the house looks worse than it did before you started. Walls are torn out. Floors are ripped up. The structure is exposed and ugly and uninhabitable. If you judge the renovation by how the house looks during demolition, you would conclude the project has failed. You would call the contractor in a panic and say, "Stop, put it back. This is worse than before." But the demolition is not failure. The demolition is the necessary stage between the old structure and the new one. You cannot install new walls without removing the old ones. You cannot lay new floors on top of rotting foundations. The destruction is the construction. They are the same process viewed at different stages. The reversal you're experiencing, the apparent contradiction of your manifestation, is demolition. The old pattern is being dismantled. The structures, circumstances, and conditions that belong to the old reality are being cleared to make room for the new one. And the clearing will, by definition, look like loss, like things falling apart, like regression. But regression and reorganization are indistinguishable from the outside. Now here's why stage 3 is where most people fail. When the reversal hits, the nervous system, which you've been training in stage 2 to tolerate uncertainty, faces its hardest test. Because now the uncertainty isn't neutral, it's negative. The senses aren't just failing to confirm the manifestation, they're providing evidence against it. And the nervous system, which was already uneasy with the gap, now receives what it interprets as confirmation of its worst fear. It is not going to happen. It was foolish to believe. The danger is real, and the temptation to react is overwhelming, to abandon the assumption, to be realistic, to revert to the old state, the old identity, the old pattern, not because it was good, but because it was familiar, and familiar feels safe, even when familiar is miserable. Neville's instruction for stage 3 was unwavering. He did not say, try to stay positive. He did not say, look for the silver lining. He said, persist. Persist in the assumption despite the evidence of the senses. Not because the evidence isn't real, it is real at the current level of manifestation. But because the evidence belongs to the old pattern, which is in the process of dissolving. And the dissolution will be complete only if you refuse to re-energize the old pattern by reacting to its final appearance. This is the principle Neville articulated more clearly than perhaps any other teacher. The senses show you where you have been, not where you are going. Physical reality is always a delayed reflection of a previous state of consciousness. What you're seeing right now, in your bank account, in your relationships, in your circumstances, is the printout of a state you inhabited weeks or months ago. It is old news. It is yesterday's weather report. The reversal is the last weather report from the old pattern. It's the final printout before the machine begins printing from the new instructions. And if you mistake the old printout for the current forecast, you'll abandon your new state and re-enter the old one, which will, in time, print out yet another copy of the reality you were trying to leave. The practice for stage 3 is this. When the reversal comes, and it will come, you do not react from the senses. You react from the state. You look at the contradiction, You acknowledge it without flinching, and you internally respond with the strangest, most counterintuitive sentence a human being can say in the face of apparent failure. This is not what it looks like. The bridge is under construction, and I remain in the wish fulfilled. You breathe. You regulate. You return to "it is done," not as denial, as a recognition that the demolition phase does not define the final structure, as a refusal to judge a renovation by the rubble. And then you wait, not passively, actively, in the state, dwelling in the end while the middle rearranges itself according to instructions you cannot see, through means you cannot predict, on a timeline you do not control. That is stage 3. And if you survive it, if you hold the inner reality while the outer reality screams its contradiction, stage 4 arrives, and it arrives with a precision that will remove every remaining doubt that this system works. The 4th and final stage is the one Neville taught with more emotion than any other, because it was the principle he discovered last, the principle he said he wished he had understood from the beginning, the principle that makes the first 3 stages not only possible, but inevitable. Stage 4, stop trying to make it happen. Let it happen through you. This sounds identical to relax and let the universe deliver. And on the surface, it is. But Neville's teaching goes deeper than the surface understanding of letting go. Far deeper. Because Neville wasn't describing passivity. He was describing a specific ontological position, a way of being that most people have never inhabited and don't know how to access. Here's the distinction. Most people understand letting go as releasing their grip on the outcome, stopping the mental pushing, ceasing the worry. And that's stage 1 and 2. Valuable, essential, foundational. But that's not what Neville meant by the Sabbath. Not fully. The Sabbath, the true Sabbath, is not the absence of effort. It is the presence of absolute conviction. It's not that you've stopped trying because you're tired. It's that you've stopped trying because trying is irrelevant when you know something is done. There is a chasm between those 2 states. The person who stops trying out of exhaustion is in resignation. The person who stops trying out of knowing is in the Sabbath. And the energetic difference between resignation and knowing is the difference between a manifestation that dies and one that crystallizes into physical form. Neville described this state using a specific image that I want you to hold in your mind. He said, imagine a woman who has been told by her doctor that she is pregnant. She has the test results. She knows. Now, does she try to make the baby grow? Does she lie awake at night willing the cells to divide? Does she check every hour to make sure the pregnancy is still progressing? Does she strain and effort and push to make the delivery happen on her schedule? No. She knows the baby is coming. She knows because the conception has already occurred. The creative act is complete, and the delivery, the physical manifestation, will happen according to an intelligence far greater than her conscious mind. Her job is not to make it happen. Her job is to carry it, to nurture herself, to remain in the state of someone who knows what's coming, and to let the process unfold in its own time, through its own means, with its own perfect intelligence. That is the Sabbath. Not, I hope this works. Not, I'm trying to trust. Not, I'm letting go because I'm supposed to. But, I know this is done. The conception has occurred. I am carrying the fulfilled desire the way a mother carries a child, and the delivery is not my responsibility. My responsibility is to remain in the state of knowing. This is a fundamentally different relationship with manifestation than most people have ever experienced. Most people relate to their desires as external things they're trying to get. The desire is out there somewhere, and they're trying to pull it toward them through techniques, visualizations, and spiritual effort. They are the pursuer. The manifestation is the pursued. Neville inverted this completely. In his teaching, the manifestation is not something you pursue. It is something you carry. It already exists within you, impressed upon your consciousness the moment you felt the wish fulfilled. You are not chasing it. It is growing inside you, and your only job is to provide the conditions for its emergence into the physical world. Those conditions are what the first 3 stages established. Stage 1, complete the creative act and stop interfering. Stage 2, regulate the nervous system so it can tolerate the gap. Stage 3, persist through the reversal without abandoning the state. And Stage 4, settle so deeply into the knowing that effort becomes irrelevant, not because you're passive, because you're pregnant. And pregnant women don't try to have babies. They carry them, and then they deliver. Here's the specific practice for Stage 4, and it's the practice that changes the entire texture of your life. Not just your manifestation practice, your life. Every morning, before your feet touch the floor, lie still and feel. Don't visualize. Don't affirm. Don't do anything. Just feel the state of having. Not the thing you want, the state of having it. The settled, calm, full-bodied sensation of someone whose desire is already fulfilled. The groundedness, the quiet satisfaction, the absence of craving, the warmth in the chest that comes from completion rather than anticipation. Inhabit that state the way you'd inhabit a warm bath, not straining toward it, sinking into it, letting it hold you, letting gravity do the work, letting the feeling fill every cell of your body without your mind directing or managing or questioning the process. This is what Neville meant by sleeping in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, not a technique performed at bedtime, a state inhabited upon waking, a frequency carried into the day, a somatic reality that your body broadcasts into the field of consciousness, not through words, not through thoughts, but through the unmistakable signal of a human being who already has what they desire. And here is the deepest teaching, the teaching Neville returned to in his final lectures with more urgency than anything else he ever said. You are not a person using a technique to get something from the universe. You are the universe, temporarily focused as a person, using imagination to select which possibilities become physical. There is no separation between you and the creative power. There never was. The feeling of separation, the feeling that you are here and the manifestation is over there and you need to build a bridge between them. That feeling is the only obstacle. When you relax into the knowing, when you inhabit the Sabbath completely, the separation dissolves. You realize that the desire and the fulfillment were never apart. They existed in the same place, in you, in your consciousness, in the only place anything has ever existed. And the physical manifestation? It's not something that arrives from somewhere else. It's something that becomes visible in the physical world because you've stopped obscuring it with doubt, anxiety, and the frantic energy of someone who doesn't know it's already theirs. The universe doesn't deliver your manifestation. You stop hiding it from yourself. Relaxation is not a strategy for getting what you want. Relaxation is the removal of the only barrier that was ever between you and having it. Let me give you the complete architecture. Stage 1. The creative act is complete. The moment you felt the wish fulfilled, the seed was planted. Your work is done. Stop digging it up. Stop checking. Stop managing the how, the when, or the through whom. The creative intelligence that governs reality has received your instruction and is organizing the bridge of incidents. Let it work. Stage 2. Regulate the nervous system. The anxiety you feel is not spiritual failure. It's your nervous system treating uncertainty as threat. Drop into the body. Slow the breath. Place your hand on your chest. State, "It is done," as fact, not hope. Train your biology to tolerate the gap between creative act and physical result. Stage 3. Persist through the reversal. When circumstances appear to contradict your manifestation, recognize the demolition phase. The old pattern is dissolving. The contradiction is not evidence of failure. It is the last printout from the old state. Remain in the wish fulfilled while the outer world catches up to the inner reality you've already established. Stage 4. Enter the Sabbath. Stop trying to make it happen. Carry it the way a mother carries a child. Inhabit the state of having, not through effort, but through knowing. Every morning, before your feet touch the floor, sink into the feeling of completion. Broadcast that state into your day, not as a technique, as a truth. Neville Goddard taught many techniques across his career. Revision, the lullaby method, congratulatory scenes, specific visualizations, and all of them work when they're followed by these 4 stages. The technique is the planting. The 4 stages are the letting grow. Without the planting, there's nothing to grow. Without the growing, the planting is wasted. The universe was never ignoring your manifestations. It was responding to the total signal. And the total signal for most people is 10 minutes of, I have it, followed by 23 hours and 50 minutes of, where is it? When is it coming? Why isn't it here? What am I doing wrong? The universe heard both signals, and it delivered the louder one. Change the ratio. Not by imagining harder, by relaxing deeper, by trusting more completely, by inhabiting the done state with such settled, embodied certainty that checking for signs becomes as absurd as checking whether gravity still works. It works. It has always worked. And the only thing standing between you and the physical evidence of that truth is your willingness to stop standing between you and it. The Sabbath is not inaction. It is the most powerful action available to a conscious being. It is the full participation of your entire system, mind, body, nervous system, identity, in the lived reality of the wish fulfilled. Not someday, now, not hoping, knowing, not trying, being. Neville's final message, repeated in lecture after lecture in his last years, was this: dare to assume, and then rest in that assumption as though it were fact. For the assumption, though denied by the senses, if persisted in, will harden into fact. Harden into fact. Not might become real, not could possibly happen. Harden into fact. The way water hardens into ice when the temperature changes. Inevitably, mechanically, without negotiation. Your only job is to hold the temperature. The freezing happens on its own.